Hello, welcome, and good morning. I'm going to start with today. Actually, I'm doing a mix of the sort of formats I've done before, a little bit of YouTube video, a little bit of text from these articles that were curated to me through the stories feed of Copilot for Internet Explorer, which I cherry picked a few, just kind of sort of my morning narrative. My coffee, I'm not going to lie, like I said, is running low, and I'm halfway through the only cup I have left. It's pretty watered down as is. So, side note: if you're into UFC, UFC Mexico wrapped up post-fight press conference. I did not watch the fight, so I have nothing to comment on.
Is AI going to create jobs or destroy jobs overall?
Oh, here we go, straight in.
Yeah, I think.
Is AI going to create jobs or destroy jobs? At Davos, Palantir CEO explains exactly how AI will impact jobs. Yeah, why not start with a video?
I think one of the unfortunate things of the narrative.
This picks up on where I left off yesterday about LinkedIn's top skills for 2026.
In the West is it will destroy humanity's jobs of, like, you went to an elite school and you studied philosophy. Use myself as an example.
I did too.
Yeah, hopefully you have some other skill. That one is going to be hard to market.
It was always hard.
Yeah, it's very hard to market the skill of philosophy if you study philosophy.
The market.
It was hard to market.
I think, when was this published? This was published a month ago. The video yesterday about 2026's predictions, I don't remember what date that was published, but I wonder if this guy, maybe it's just a coincidence that the LinkedIn CEO was talking about top skills and whatnot, and this guy's saying how to market.
Hard.
It was a good education.
A very, very strong education. If you can get a job, you might keep it. But that's what I always thought. It was like, if I finally get a job, I'll probably keep it and do well, but I'm not sure who's going to give me my first job. But like technicians,
Yeah.
if you're a vocational technician, or like we're building batteries for a battery company, and the people who are doing it in America are doing roughly the same job that Japanese engineers are doing, and they went to high school. And now they're very valuable, if not irreplaceable, because we can make them into something different than what they were very rapidly. And those jobs...
That echoes what the CEO from LinkedIn was talking about yesterday about the most popular things 2026 that people are looking for are not degrees, not experience, not your CV. What they really want to know is what skills you have, and that's the hard thing that they want to know. The hard skills, like, battery technician, very specific, very, hard skill. And then the soft skills. Are you a person that can learn and grow? So that if maybe you've been working in a battery factory your whole life, you can now, with a little bit of training, go work at Tesla and be part of their something engineering team for Teslas. That's what they're talking about.
Are going to become more
the most popular hard and soft skills of 2026.
Valuable. I mean, I do not to diverge into my usual political screeds, but there will be more than enough jobs for the citizens of your nation, especially those with vocational training. I do think these
vocational training, he's calling it, right? Vocational training. I met met a young man the other day, 21 years old, who has studied, he did an apprenticeship in welding when he was 16, and he's been doing it ever since. And he's like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to stick with welding. He's working in Aberdeen, doing it in the docks. He'll always have work. There'll always be work for him. All right. So what's it got to do with AI?
Really do make it hard to imagine why public sometimes. Certainly most important years, and my father, what societies and microcultures are going to be load-bearing here. I think you would find that parts of the developing world, certain communities in that are going to do very well. You do need a realistic assessment of the load-bearing. Yeah. And there's a certain honesty that is painful for all of us in this technology, large language models, however implemented in software. You just cannot obfuscate what can bear the load and what can't. And then political structures are built to do just that. Like, yeah, I can't fix anything, but I can give you some bullshit line that you want to hear that's going to make
My dude just dropped the phrase bullshit at the World Economic Forum in Davos. What a G.
you not care about how bad your life is and how much worse it's going to be tomorrow. Yeah. I can give you that for free. And that stuff is harder to get away with.
Only a philosophy major, right? Not only.
In this culture. And, you know, I still view myself as a card-carrying progressive, and I think it's the single most important thing a progressive could do.
A progressive philosopher.
Say, yeah, but the revolution that's coming is going to expose the actual market value of what you're doing.
The revolution that's coming is going to expose the actual market value of what you're doing. So this is how he's saying AI will impact jobs in the long run. It's going to expose the real market value. But what does real market value mean, right? Is it the
whether
value?
We want it or not.
Whether we want it or
it's
not.
Like, I don't even want to know the market value of some of this stuff. But it is over a relative rapid period of time, so next 3 years, you're just going to get market value, honesty in all sorts of in communities and micro communities. And the best thing you can do if you are in a community, whether that is a large community like Germany or a large community, larger like America, and you really care for the people you're representing, is to say, yeah, but we have to kind of look closely at what load we can bear.
I'm not sure what he means by this load-bearing thing. I think he mentioned it earlier, but we'll come back to that later maybe. I got quite a lot of things lined up here that I want to consume before getting on with my day, and I only got an hour. So, Elon Musk bans resumes and cover letters in hiring for his chip team. There are 3 bullet points that he's looking for instead. Pray tell. What are the bullet points? What are the magic bullets, Mr. Musk? Let me just ask my little chatbot here on the side. What are the 3 bullets of Elon? 3 bullet points Elon Musk asks candidates to submit are very simple and very specific. 3 bullets he wants. According to the article, yeah. Number 1, the toughest technical problem you've ever solved. Number 2, how you solved them. And number 3, what the results were. That's just, that's kind of, that's the all recruiters tell you that's how you should be answering questions. In interviews, you know, the STAR method or the KISS method or whatever they call it. You know, there's different acronyms, but it's like situation, problem, how you solved it, what you learned from it, and whatnot. So he's following that model, but he's just reduced it down to the things that he wants to know, which is, you know, can you build chips? It's similar to what the guy, you know, what the dude at Davos was saying and the CEO was saying of LinkedIn on NBC. It's, look, what are your skills? How can you use them? And what can you do for me? This is not really new. I could tell you as a job seeker who's been, you know, all over the place and in and out of different jobs, different countries, different industries for years now, with the exception of the 6 years in a single industry working as a teacher in education in the UK. Everything else was kind of hopped around. But I'm exaggerating. Most of it was B2B tech. Most B2B tech teaching, and then a few other things. Actually, I haven't really. Industries have been specific. Everything, companies I may have hopped all around, but industries are pretty consistent. So thinking about it now, what's my skill? I think I have plenty of evidence to suggest that I can learn, because I haven't been stuck in the same thing for the same time forever. So that's proof of that. And then the skills that I bring, toughest technical. Well, I don't know how to build chips, so you know, I actually appreciate this approach of Elon Musk, because he's hiring for a very specific team and he's looking for a very specific thing. He wants the toughest technical problem you've ever solved. He wants technical people who have technical skills. He wants to know how they solve them. That will unpack how they use the skills that they have and what the results were. That will say how good they are at applying those skills. It's kind of academic, really, in a way, his approach. Thanks, Elon. Nice one. What do we have next? Is it worth going to university?
Whoa.
What's that?
I just built a budgeting app in Base 44.
Guys, Nina just built an app.
Impossible. Earning a degree used to lead to a steady job with a good salary. But today, young graduates in the West are finding fewer employment opportunities. So, is it still worth going to university? The unemployment rate of young graduates in America is now approaching the same rate for the age group as a whole. In 2010,
Unemployment rates for university graduates in the United States are almost the same as people who did not go to university. So just based on that data alone, it might suggest that, was it a waste of time and money for the people who did go to college?
there was around a 6 percentage point difference in unemployment between young people and young graduates.
In 2010, there was a 6% difference, right? So that means even that was not huge. That's like saying you spent, I don't know how much money, especially in the US, to go to college, to get a degree, and 4 years of your life, so that you could earn 6% more than the high school graduate who just went straight into work, that you would, your buddy from school that didn't go to college. It's not a huge difference, but it depends. Again, like, take these numbers with a grain of salt. 6% is 6% of 100 is $6, right? But 6% of 1,000 is $600. No, that's not right at all. It's it's 60. If we get into the hundreds of thousands and millions, it's a car or not, right?
It's not just in America.
I'm waffling
In the
now.
European Union, the unemployment rate of young people with tertiary education is
Tertiary.
now approaching the overall rate for that age group. One
So it's
theory
happening
for
in
this
Europe
is
too.
that
It's starting to happen in
universities are
Europe too.
accepting less talented applicants, and then they aren't teaching them very well. This could lead to employers not expecting much of a difference between the average graduate and then someone who didn't go to university.
Ooh, that's a good point that he's making, and I can say this with full conviction, right? From working for the higher education industry, for working with secondary school education, and as somebody who has 4 university degrees, yes, I am not ashamed to admit, over the years, colleges and universities have lowered the bar of entry. It is getting easier and easier and easier to get into university. So I think what he's saying is that the employers are kind of aware of this. So when they see somebody with a degree, it doesn't mean the same thing. It doesn't automatically mean, okay, there's no guarantees that come with it, because everyone's got one, and everyone's got one because it's easy to get one.
Another theory is that fewer jobs need graduate level qualifications.
Look at me, I'm a dumbass and I got 4.
For example, in the past, you often needed to attend a university in order to understand how to use a computer.
On the frontiers of science, the strange world of the computer.
But today, almost everyone can use tech, regardless of whether or not they went to university.
Oh yeah, tech. Yeah, everyone can use tech. You don't need to go and study computer science to use tech. It's so accessible. You can build an app from your phone. There are apps to build apps. No one needs, like in the early noughties, I remember a lot of my people my age from college, from high school, who went on to study computer science, they were, computer coding nerds who went on to do incredible things. It was just in terms of financially, but then that hit a plateau, and they found themselves in a situation which is probably going to worsen for younger people.
The number of jobs in graduate-friendly industries
But with AI
is also
now.
increasing. Across the EU, the number of 15 to 24-year-olds who were employed in finance and insurance fell by 16% from 2009 to 2024. And since 2016, the number of British 20-somethings in law and finance has fallen by 10%.
Yeah, he's mentioning finance and insurance in particular because he's referring to the British economy. The British economy is, like 2/3 of the services provided from the UK economy are financial services, something crazy like that. So, and that makes up like, and services makes up like a quarter of their GDP or something. Don't quote me on these numbers, but it's if you compare it to, if you compare those things to any other countries, it's hugely different. Britain doesn't manufacture stuff; it outputs services, and a big chunk is finance. So when you have this drop off in people working in finance and insurance, it doesn't look like a big deal because it's just finance and insurance, but for the UK, it's a huge deal for young people. Those are like, that's like saying coal miners. That's like saying coal mines shutting in Wales in the 50s and 60s. What are young people supposed to do? Where are they supposed to work? What am I supposed to do?
Tempting to blame AI for these waning opportunities. Yet, the decline in graduate jobs started long before ChatGPT.
Yes, long before
What's more,
ChatGPT, especially
is
in
that the
finance.
industries that traditionally employed graduates have had a tough time lately.
And in the UK.
Since the global financial crisis of 2007 to 2009, the golden age of investment banking is over. So they're spending less.
The golden age of investment bank. Actually, the person I was thinking of one person in particular who will remain nameless, who did computer science in school, did it in college, and then went into the financial industry in the early noughties, investment banking in particular. And there was like this surge and then a plateau around the end of the era of the investment banking, the golden era. They stopped spending money on hiring graduates.
Young people's decision on whether or not to attend college.
Okay, so yeah,
Younger
college.
enrolled in bachelor's programs fell by 5% from 2013.
Okay, they're applying for less bachelor's.
Yet,
In most countries,
plays a large role, young people are still applying to universities.
it's
to grow.
cheaper. It's cheap. Where in countries where it's cheaper, people are still applying. But in countries where it's expensive, they're dropping off because they're starting to weigh up
Excluding
that
America,
money.
enrollment across the OECD rose from 28 million to 31
Right, so it's
million.
dropping in the US because it's too expensive
Perhaps students
and they don't see the
simply
value.
right subjects.
And I think that's perfectly reasonable. I haven't lived in the US in a very long time. I haven't even visited the US in quite a long some time. So I'm out of touch with what it's like, the reality for people. I'm also in my 40s now. I'm 43, so I'm also out of touch with what young people are going through. But what I hear through cousins and family that are Gen Z, Gen Y, living and working in the US, and Xenials as well, the whole spread. I'm lucky to have a wide range of age groups for cousins and uncles. That this is true. There is definitely, I can feel it when I'm hanging out with them, that there is something shifting in terms of work and attitudes towards work in the US and study.
Humanities and social sciences are still proving popular.
Humanities and social science is still popular. Good to know.
Journalism.
Social science teacher. Hello.
If these trends say anything about young people's ideas about the future of work, they truly are in trouble. So, in the age of AI, what should you study at university? As technology improves, the future of work is changing too. Many of the jobs that graduates will have don't even exist yet. Some young people worry that certain skills they learn.
That's a good point. Many of the jobs that graduates today are going to have, like by the time they're my age, have not been invented yet. Those jobs don't exist yet. So they're studying for something, hoping that it's going to be valuable and useful for something in the future, right? And this, to bring it back to a personal point, I studied business and I studied business and marketing and entrepreneurship. Sure, there's always going to be scope for entrepreneurs, and there's always, as long as there's an economy, there's always going to be marketing to doing it. So for me, when I was studying, it was kind of the opposite because it was very broad and not non-specific. And now at this point in my career and my professional life, I am finding it a little challenging to figure out where my skill set fits. I want it to fit in with the technical things that I know how to do, the hard skills, so to speak. But I usually when I get interviewed for things outside of teaching, or a client lead or something like that. In freelancing, yes, it's a different story. They do look at my hard skills, and that's because they're looking for better value than going to an agency. So hiring a freelancer, people choose that option because they know it's going to be cheaper than an agency. So they're looking for agency quality with, negotiable rates, which is actually what they get and why it's actually exhausting. But then for finding like a regular 9 to 5 within the scope of my skills, it's harder, I guess. Not I guess, it is, and on the merit of my skills alone, because they want, especially after a lot of the experience that have had is a bit redundant after a certain point, you know. More so for other people than it is for me, I gotta say, because I've been lucky enough to be on the strategic end of digital marketing and entrepreneurship by working in SMEs than other people who just like spent 5-10 years doing nothing but CSS and coding, and now they're looking at what you can do graphically with AI and with coding as well, and wondering, you know, how can I get a strategic scope of things. I think where I fall short sometimes is what I was talking about yesterday. You know, the soft skills, letting people talk, listening more, you know, not being overly ambitious, because over-ambition can be perceived as a threat, like our friend Evie told us, and things like that.
Might become outdated as technology changes.
Skills can become outdated as technology changes. Yes, thank you. What this dude said. That's basically what I'm saying. The skills that I have that are becoming outdated, for somebody like me, that's a welcome thing. I'm welcoming the day that the skills I have, because I'm like the jack of all trades in digital marketing. I could do a little bit of all the hard skills involved in digital marketing. So I position myself as somebody who can manage a team of people that are specialists in those things. But as the people who are specialists in those things might become redundant because the technology is shifting away from needing people to do that, because you have AI to do it for you, then being a one-man band, so to speak, in digital marketing actually looks quite attractive. And as I'm saying this right now, I'm starting to think that maybe I should upskill even more in AI, because that then takes the soft skills I've developed over the years in digital marketing and turns it into a hard skill where I can have a robot team. You know, I don't feel as threatened by maybe some other people do.
Coding, for example, is it...
And like, it's like the video that we were watching yesterday, of somebody was saying AI is not going to be a threat to people's jobs. The threat to people's jobs is the person who knows how to use AI. Or the other person who was saying about it's going to expose people's real value. And I might have been trying to position myself as somebody with the hard skills. I can do this as good as that person, as a designer, or good enough. I can do this as good as a web developer, or at least good enough. But the most important thing, and the thing that I'm always trying to put across, is it's the strategic value. It's the digital architecture of it and all that kind of stuff. And maybe this exposure that's going to happen in the next 3 or 4 years is going to work to my advantage, because it'll help put to the forefront what I should have been putting at the front instead of what I have been putting at the forefront of the conversations.
At risk of becoming obsolete within only a few years. According to one study, the percentage of American and British IT professionals who worry that AI tools will make many of their day-to-day skills obsolete increased from
74% of American and British IT professionals are worried about AI making their skills obsolete. I hope it does.
From 74% to 91% in just 1 year. There are some subjects which are likely to stay relevant. Robotics, for example, will help people maximize the benefits of technological change. And practical jobs, like plumbing and carpentry, are less likely to be taken over by AI and will remain valued by society. These professions often don't require a university qualification and can be learnt in other ways, like on apprenticeships. But arguably, what's more
that friend of mine,
than studying
or the person
is to focus on learning
the welder, the 21-year-old welder.
Things like
I took my hat off to him, and I accept these are good skills. The construction workers that work with Decals, my dad's company, I take my hat off to them. These are good skills, good careers to pursue. Invaluable. AI will never be, nothing will ever be a threat to somebody who knows how to weld or how to build, you know, a birdhouse with a couple of lumber, you know, 2x4s, hammers and nails.
Complex social interactions, such as care, will still need humans. So developing skills like
Care for the elderly
and persuasion will be vital.
Skills of persuasion.
AI isn't very good at these soft skills.
AI is never going to be good at those soft
Emotions have a
skills.
deep meaning, but I can't experience them like you can.
So,
And teaching as well. He didn't mention teaching, but let's pick up the teachers. Yeah, large language models can assimilate information and present it to you. But anybody who's ever been a teacher, you not even have to have studied it. If you've been a teacher long enough, you know that presenting information is not how you get people to learn.
with machines. Nearly all degrees will allow you to gain these skills through group projects, presentations, and extracurricular activities. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter which degree you choose to study. Perhaps what's even more important is that a student gains work experience or an internship. Research finds that those who graduated in 2022 and completed internships were 23% more likely to start a full-time position within 6 months of graduation. This gap
Graduates increase full-time job with apprenticeship experience. Right.
increases further in certain fields like oil.
Oil, gas, mining graduates increase chance of a full-time job with internship experience, 65. Right. So manual labor stuff, they value knowing that you've actually been on, you know, all hands on deck, that you've actually done it physically, than if you've studied it. But this is of graduates, right? So 65%. Okay, this is kind of not really mind-breaking.
Where it rose to 65%.
If you have a degree and you've applied it, you're more likely to get hired. Okay. That's always been the case. It's never changed. It's not new.
One thing is for sure. A student with a variety of skills, a lifelong desire to learn, and a good attitude will go far.
A graduate with a variety of skills and a lifelong learning attitude will go far, says this journalist from The Economist. Well, fuck me. If with the exception of the graduate part, I definitely fit that description. Now, I think that the graduate part of that statement, though, is the most important part of the statement, because graduate means cheap. So yeah, if you find a graduate who has a degree that's applied it through an apprenticeship, has a growth mindset with lifelong learning as a part of who they are, and they also have a range of skills, yeah, you've found the golden fucking goose of hires, yeah. And also they're cheap because it's their first job. They're just happy to have beer money. Yeah, of course you're gonna go far. You're gonna go far enough to get a job. After that, I don't know. You should go far, but that's like, I don't think that's the majority of graduates, and it's certainly not the majority of people. All right, moving on.
This isn't just a
I think now we can, now maybe an article, just to switch it up. Science says people with this one physical feature are usually narcissists. So we're talking about being able to determine somebody's psychology by their appearance. That sounds like fake science. I don't know. Fuller, thicker eyebrows may be associated with higher narcissistic traits, possibly due to attention, dominance, and self-presentation, though correlation does not imply causation. Correlation does not imply causation. Personality insights. Narcissism involves grandiosity, need for admiration, and low empathy. Facial cues like symmetry, jawline, and eye contact can influence first impressions, but cannot define personality. Right, so what's this all about? Context matters. Genetics, culture, environment shape both appearance and behavior. Consistent actions reveal character far more reliably than physical traits alone. I think that's a key takeaway here. Yeah, I mean, don't judge a book by its cover. Or their behavior, unless it's consistent behavior. You see patterns of behaviors. You see patterns of manipulation, patterns of coercion, and over a long period of time, it is what it is. What narcissism really means, yeah, we got that. First impressions in the face. So eyebrows, huh? Okay. some research suggests that there's a correlation, but people shape their eyebrows, right? So it's not like eye color, it's eyebrows. So maybe it's more not so much a physical thing as it is a reflection of the personality behind it. It's like if you have a particular haircut or if you dress a particular way, right? Like narcissists typically present themselves quite nice. They want to look, they want to present themselves aesthetically pleasing because it makes it easier to charm somebody and whatnot. So maybe that's what they mean here by correlation does not imply causation. All right, what else? ChatGPT movement gains stream. All right, pivot onto this one. When affection becomes a tool of control? The deceptive charm of love bombing. If you've never heard the phrase love bombing, it is a real thing, right? It's basically a way to get you to lower your guard. While it may look like romance, the intent is often to influence or control before genuine trust is built. In contrast, healthy relationships build closeness gradually and honor each other's boundaries. Psychological motives and manipulation tactics. Cosmopolitan and the HuffPost report. Hello. Cosmopolitan and the HuffPost report that love bombing is frequently linked to narcissistic or abusive behavior patterns and can also be associated with personality disorders such as narcissistic or borderline personality. Borderline personality, I did not know that it's associated with borderline personality disorder. It definitely is intuitively associated with narcissism. Motivations range from ego boosting. So why people love bomb? To boost their egos, to secure loyalty, and to avoid abandonment. Once the target is emotionally committed, the behavior often shifts to criticism, withdrawal, or other forms of control. We can all imagine what those could be. Recognizing early warning signs. Cosmopolitan and Psychology Today note that early signs can include being told you are a soulmate after only a few dates, receiving expensive or inappropriate gifts for early on, like if the dude buys you a car, or being overwhelmed with constant messages and attention. Other red flags include sudden pressure for major commitments, repeated quests for personal access such as passwords, and attempts to limit time with friends and family. Such behaviors can indicate disregard of your boundaries, your healthy boundaries. From affection to abuse, how love bombing can transition into emotional abuse through the law of reciprocity, making the recipient feel obligated to return loyalty despite warning signs. Once control is established, the perpetrator may devalue, gaslight, or criticize, increasing dependency and confusion. Right? So that stuff increases the dependency and the confusion of the person who's been love bombed. You know, you've been nuked by the love bomb. And now any criticism or devaluing or gaslighting just causes you to get confused and run more towards them. This cycle often repeats, reinforcing trauma bonds and reduces the victim's sense of self-worth. It sounds savage, doesn't it? Like if somebody just slaps somebody across the room, we immediately like, oh, you know, immediately kind of woo. But this kind of abuse, you know, a bruise will heal in a week or two, but this kind of damage can be permanent. It's really bad. Huh? Breaking free and healing. Right, here's some silver lining. Planning an exit with supportive networks and professional help can aid in recovery and reducing risks. Therapy, setting boundaries, reconnecting with healthy relationships are key steps to rebuilding self-esteem and independence. Easier said than done when you've been dragged through the mud like that. And dragged through the mud and kept asking for more. Scary stuff. Okay, I'll lighten the mood a little bit. Matthew McConaughey's crude prank shocks come. Yeah, I clicked on this because Matthew McConaughey and Timothée Chalamet are two of my favorite celebrity personality dudes, and I think as actors as well. Like, they're two of my favorite actors at the moment. Looking at their recent work, I don't know what Chalamet did prior, but I like what he's doing at the moment. Matthew McConaughey, I know he started on what was that? He was that guy. All right. Dazed and Confused is where he started, but he's done all kinds of stuff, and just the range is impressive, and just the cool dudes. I just like them as dudes for what they represent, and they kind of represent two very different sides of the masculine, of the male coin, of the male psyche. And that's why seeing both their names in a single headline caught my attention. So McConaughey pranked Chalamet. Apparently, what was the prank? In the interest of time, I'm going to ask ChatGPT to summarize this article for me. Not ChatGPT. Sorry, Microsoft. Copilot. Love ya. The prank itself was something cheeky, physical, and unexpected that McConaughey did. Ooh. They do not disclose what the nature of the prank actually was. Chalamet's reaction: shock, laughter, discomfort, or confusion. The context: where they were, what project they were. Oh, key elements likely covered. Not likely covered. I want to know what's actually covered. Tell me what's in it. What was the prank? Is Copilot tripping? Copilot never trips. I can't see the contents in the article you've opened. Oh, I'm so sorry. Public reaction. I guess we got to do the work ourselves here. He questioned the crew members exposing the prank. What was the prank? On his final day filming Interstellar, one of my favorite movies of all time, by the way. If you haven't seen it, watch it. He found a huge turd in the trailer toilet. Turd means a poop, in case you're wondering. Initially suspecting crew members, he confronted several before approaching director Christopher Nolan, who pointed to Matthew McConaughey as the culprit. McConaughey explained the act as, in Texas, it's a coming of age, baby, later jokingly calling it a souvenir. After Chalamet's questioning of crew members yielding no answers, he approached out. That's funny. I found it funny. But it depends on what their relationship was like on set. You know, it could be overstepping a boundary if they were on that level in terms of friends or, yeah, context is the key thing here, and we don't know what the context was of the context of the prank, or if it's a prank at all, because we don't know what kind of relationship they have, right? Public reaction divides over humor and decency. Okay, and everybody chimes in whether a turd joke is funny or not. Are farts funny? Yes, they're funny. Despite the crude farewell, Chalamet and McConaughey have maintained a warm relationship over the years. Chalamet credits Interstellar as a formative project that inspired his later work, including Dune. That makes a lot of sense. Their reunion underscored a mentorship that has endured well beyond the infamous souvenir prank. So they're still friends. Yeah, maybe he was welcoming him to the trailer life of films. Okay, what else? When affection got that. Oh yeah, this one. Crypto markets sink after the US-Israel strikes. First, I think I have, a video that explains
America and Israel's attack on Iran.
The strikes.
On the morning of February 28th, America and Israel launched another war on Iran. This one is bigger and more serious than those we saw last year.
Yeah, so yesterday morning, America as this journalist is saying, launched an attack on Iran.
This is a war of regime change.
To the great proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. Take over your government. It will be yours to take.
And in a
That sounds, it's almost like, I mean, when President Bush invaded Iraq to overthrow their regime, to give Iraqis freedom, this is part two. This is now the U.S. is, by the looks of it, trying to do the same thing in Iran.
which was endorsed by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel.
Netanyahu obviously endorses it, of course. Prime Minister of Israel.
Missiles have rained down on Tehran, the capital, and sites
Wow.
across the country. They've included attacks on the compound used by Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, Iran's supreme leader, and military sites right across the country. Iran's response has already been faster and fiercer than on previous occasions. They fired missiles towards Israel within hours of the
Wow.
war beginning. They fired missiles at the headquarters of the US Navy's 5th Fleet in Bahrain.
Whoa.
Missile actually got through.
It also fired missiles at
They fired missiles at U.S. presences in Bahrain and at Israel. They just pop, just started firing in return.
Jordan, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates, where a person was killed by falling shrapnel. This is not going to be a quick in and out operation.
I got goosebumps, I'm not gonna lie.
This is likely to last for days, as America and Israel pound the target list throughout Iran. What does this mean for the Iranian people? Well, they're unlikely to rise up while bombs are still falling on their streets. But when the dust settles, one of the key questions is how far these strikes will have weakened the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, Iran's Praetorian Guard, and other parts of the repressive state security apparatus. Will they be able to contain and brutally suppress any mass protests that occur in the aftermath of this conflict, as they did a month ago? This is a decisive moment for a regime that has occupied a commanding position in the Middle East for nearly 40 years.
Right. So yeah, this regime that is not only oppressing their own people, basically he's saying, will America be able to take out enough of their military force so that people in Iran will be able to rise up against the regime? Because let's not forget, that is what happened in Iraq as well. They were more than happy to take to the streets, but they'll only do that if they feel like they can win it, if it won't get squashed like it was a month ago. But the other more important thing I think that he says is about the regime in Iran being the pivotal force for other regimes, key presence in the Middle East. Full stop. So, but then on the other hand, to regime or not, you're destabilizing. It's a stabilizing force, for better or worse. So, it will be destabilized. Out of chaos breeds creation kind of thing. What rises in its place? It's a gamble. Destabilizing Iran in this way is going to be a gamble, right? It's got to be a gamble. But yeah, how's it going to affect crypto? Let's look at this article now. Crypto markets sink after US-Israel strikes. Bitcoin and other major cryptocurrencies tumbled after Israel confirmed a preemptive strike on Iran, with US forces participating. Okay, so it was Israel attacking Iran and US dropping bombs. Right. That it does shed a different light on things. Bitcoin dropped as much as 4.2%. Isn't it kind of weird? All these old time leaders, Putin, Netanyahu. It's like they're now they're starting to get a sense of their own mortality as they're getting old, and they're like, "Fuck it, I've always wanted to push the red button. Let's do it." I think we got to give some credit to Western leaders who have their own big red buttons and must have been tempted at many points to press them, but never did. other major tokens, including tokens, their value. Why do you think that the price of crypto is dropping in light of like this kind of this threat of World War III happening? I don't know, because the war in Ukraine's not gonna end. That's not going anywhere. So if we have Israel fighting Iran, Russia fighting Ukraine, America supporting its allies, it starts to echo World War II a little bit, doesn't it? North Korea, South Korea as well. There's an axis of power there, and an alliance on the other side. It's very reminiscent. It's a kind of deja vu-ish kind of thing. The only thing missing is the one almighty leader to unite it all, the big bad boogeyman who's in charge, and I don't think that that's going to happen unless it's a robot. A robot overlord. Following the strikes, Iran closed its airspace. Flight traffic data showed empty skies over multiple Middle Eastern countries. Yeah, they grounded all their planes. British Airways, Virgin, Lufthansa, Wizz Air, Turkish Airlines, Qatar. Everybody's just like, fuck this. Nearly 40% of flights to Israel have been canceled. What's it got to do with crypto? I don't know. Maybe some of those bombs hit a couple of crypto servers. I don't know. Just a theory. World War III fears explode as a list reveals which Americans are least likely to be drafted. Okay. Conflicts persist across numerous regions worldwide, and as tensions mount in areas including Ukraine, Palestine, Iran, worries are intensifying that the world may be inching towards World War III. These concerns are mirrored by a doomsday clock, which currently stands nearer to midnight than ever before, blah, blah, blah. Russia has contributed to growing unease following Vladimir Putin's focus has also shifted to the U.S. President Trump, concentrating on apprehending Venezuela's president while simultaneously considering Greenland as prospective military installation. To be honest with you, I'm surprised that it's not a military installation already for the U.S. Amid these developments, certain experts are pondering whether artificial intelligence, instead of global leaders, might trigger a future world conflict. I was joking. I was joking when I said that. Who wrote this article? The Daily Express. Okay. Whilst the U.S. hasn't implemented a military draft since 1973, all men are still legally obligated to register for selective service within 30 days of their 18th birthday. Failure to register is classified as a felony and can result in being denied access to student loans and federal jobs, along with fines reaching $250,000 and up to 5 years in prison. Yeah, so there's still a draft in America. The selective service applies to men ages 18 to 25. Whew, okay, dodge that bullet. Medical disability and exemptions also exist. So you can only be drafted if you're aged 18 to 25. That's pretty narrow range, to be honest. I thought it would have been way wider than that. Okay. Several nations already incorporate women into their conscription systems, and the U.S. came close to doing so in 2026. Oh, yeah, men and women. So women are not included. It's just men 18 to 25. Okay. 12 signs that you may have high-functioning depression. Do we got time for this? Yes.
Withdrawal. Pulling back from plans conserves energy but increases isolation, weakening support systems and leaving you lonely. Relentless self-criticism. Achievements are dismissed, flaws magnified. A harsh inner critic erodes self-esteem beyond logic, distinguishing depression from stress. Exhaustion. After the workday, Performing all day drains reserves. At home, a crash kills motivation, making chores and hobbies feel insurmountable. Irritability and short fuse. Irritability can dominate. Snapping over small annoyances feels like character weakness, though over half of depressive episodes include anger. And
half of depressive episodes include anger. No surprise there, really.
Inability to feel joy. Anhedonia numbs experiences. You attend events but feel detached.
It's called anhedonia, high-functioning depression. You attend events, but you feel detached. You go to work, you do your job, but you go home and you feel empty.
Turning
that kind of stuff.
Moments into flat, colorless routines.
Flat, colorless routines, but you just you get on with it.
Depression disrupts appetite. Some lose interest in meals. Others self-soothe with carbs.
Lose appetite.
Triggering weight fluctuations and added stress. Chronic sleep disturbances. Insomnia or oversleeping signal dysregulation. Fatigue worsens depression, creating a vicious cycle that makes rest feel impossible.
Yep, the vicious cycle that I talked about yesterday. The fatigue and all the effects of this. Hypothalamus that lady was talking about and all that stuff, it makes you even more prone to the depression, and then it's just like a cycle that spirals out of control. Yeah, if you want to hear more about that, watch yesterday's. Elon Musk's resume, ChatGPT. To quit there's a quit GPT movement apparently. The quit GPT movement gains mainstream as OpenAI's Department of War deal has users saying cancel. There's a Department of War deal. ChatGPT is that a figure of speech? Or is that a real thing? The Department of War has stated they will only contract with AI companies who accede to any lawful use and remove safeguards in the cases mentioned above. And Altman implies that OpenAI is okay with the government using its tools, which under certain segments of the Patriot Act could easily lead to mass surveillance of U.S. citizens as part of the provisions of surveying foreign citizens. Okay, so spy stuff on the spy stuff level, not like, but surely if they're open to using it for, if the Department of War is open to using it for surveillance, they're going to be open to using it for, like, if not probably already using it for, like, targeting weapons, surveying landscapes for bunkers, I don't know. For example, Google removed an explicit ban on the technology from its internal rules last year, leaving Gemini open to such potential uses. Okay, so they said you can't use ChatGPT, but you can use our AI if you work for Google. The cancel ChatGPT movement is spreading and seemingly hitting the massive AI firm in its bank account. So people are quitting ChatGPT. Of course, it's hard to gauge. Yeah, the leaders of the AI race have a lot of power in their hands, and while Altman said, "We remain committed to serve all of humanity as best we can. The world is complicated, messy, and sometimes a dangerous place. It's hard to take him on his word with decisions like these," says the article. I can take him on his word because if you look at his words carefully, we remain committed to serve all of humanity as best as we can, The world is a complicated, messy, sometimes dangerous place. To draw a parallel with like World War II, think of like automobile car companies wondering whether they should be manufacturing military jeeps to help the military. Because on the one hand, they're helping to combat the bad guys, the enemies. On the other hand, those vehicles are ushering their sons, in many cases, to their deaths. So, how to best serve humanity is the ethical dilemma. To take him on his word, that is his word. His words are, we're still trying to figure out what's the right or wrong thing to do here. We also will build technical safeguards to ensure our models behave as they should, which the DOW, Department of War, also wanted. Yeah, we don't want collateral damage is what the Department of War is saying, so sort your robots out before we can sign a deal. and hand you taxpayers' money. Okay. What's left? Yeah, just one last video, and coming up to the hour. How to outsmart.
There's something different about owning something.
How to outsmart a toxic coworker.
If a coworker is actively trying to make you fail at work, it's almost never random. It's a predictable pattern. And if you don't understand how that pattern works, you'll either burn out, get quietly sidelined, or pushed out completely while they walk away clean. So today I'm going to show you exactly how competitive coworkers operate, why the advice you've been hearing doesn't work, and what actually protects you.
Okay, the headline says toxic coworker, but he's actually referring now to them as competitive, right? So I think the video is saying being overly competitive with your coworkers is toxic. Agreed.
When someone wants your job or your reputation destroyed. Let's start with what you've probably been told to do. Ignore them. Stay professional. Focus on your work. Keep your head down and let
all advice that I've heard in the past of how to deal with it.
Your results speak.
Just keep your head down, let your results speak for yourselves. These things often have come from like my managers as well. Friends, family, you know, and in an ideal world, that would be enough.
The problem with all of that.
But the problem with all of that is it doesn't work, in fact.
It makes things worse.
Makes things worse.
Because while you're being the bigger person,
being the bigger person is not always
reframing every project you touch. They're positioning your wins as their ideas. They're planting seeds of doubt about your judgment, your work ethic, your team fit.
Wow.
And the more
people who, I mean, that's really toxic. I don't think I've met somebody who's been that toxic, and I've been in many workplaces. But then again, I have not had the opportunity to stay long enough to find out if there was, right? Because somebody who's this level of toxic, you probably would not even realize.
The more invisible you try to become, the more space you give them to control the narrative about who you are. The second thing people tell you is to confront them directly. Have an honest conversation, clear the air. Tell them how their behavior makes you feel, and ask if you did something to upset them. And look, I'm going to give you that strategy later, because sometimes it works. But most of the time, when you reveal that they're getting to you, you just gave them exactly what they wanted. Confirmation that their tactics are working, and now they know which buttons to push even harder. So if ignoring them doesn't work and confronting them is risky, what do you actually do?
Ignoring them doesn't work. Confronting them is risky because you might fuel them further. What do?
You need to understand what you're dealing with first. Competitive coworkers who want you to fail operate from one of two places.
Competitive coworkers who want you to fail. Now he's being specific. Yes, that is very toxic. That's like somebody, you know, it's like when the person in the playground, the guy that has nothing to show for other than cutting other people down. And that's, you know, if you cut somebody down, then that makes you look taller, even though you haven't grown an inch, you know?
Either you're a genuine threat to something they want, or they've identified you as someone they can use as a stepping stone. Let me explain the difference, because
and then once they've cut you down enough, they'll use you as a stepping stone. Yeah.
Strategy changes depending on which one you're dealing with. The first type sees you as a threat. Maybe you got promoted faster than they did. Maybe you're working on the high visibility
there's types of
projects they've been
toxic.
chasing for years. Maybe the boss clearly prefers your approach to theirs. Maybe you're just younger and they see you as competition for the next opening. When this happens, you didn't do anything wrong. You're just in their way. Before you showed up, maybe they were the top performer, the go-to person, the one everyone noticed. Then you arrived and the spotlight shifted. And instead of stepping up their own game, they decided the easier path was tearing you down. Here's how you know if this is your situation. Their behavior is consistent. They undermine you in meetings. They take credit for your work. They CC your boss on your small mistakes, but never your wins. They're friendly to your face, but you hear later they've been talking about you behind your back. They volunteer you for impossible deadlines or projects designed to fail. This isn't random negativity. This is strategic. They're trying to dim your light so theirs looks brighter by comparison.
They're trying to dim your light so theirs looks brighter by comparison. Well played.
The second type is different. They don't see you as a threat. They see you as a...
That's type 1, the type that sees you as a threat. That's what they will do, right? Type 2 is the type that doesn't see you as a threat, but they see you as a target, and the difference matters.
And the difference matters.
Why?
This person has identified something about the way you operate, the way you respond to pressure, the way you handle conflict, and they've decided you're someone they can exploit. Maybe you're too nice. Maybe you apologize.
So this is the person who doesn't see you as a threat, but sees you as somebody they can exploit, somebody they can use and manipulate.
Apologize too much. Maybe you've shown that you'll back down when challenged. Maybe you're new and don't understand the political landscape yet. They're not scared of you. They just see an opportunity to build themselves up by making you look bad. You know you're dealing with this version when their attacks feel almost casual. They're not obsessively tracking your every move. They just take shots when it's convenient. They'll throw you under the bus if it makes them look good, but they're not losing sleep over you. You're just collateral damage in their career strategy. And honestly, this version can be even more dangerous because they're not emotional about it. They're calculating. Now here's what
This is the more calculating type, not the emotional type. The ones that see you as a threat, they're emotional about it. You walked into their turf and they're like, whoa, you know, you made their hair stand up because now you're the one getting all the attention. That bothers them. It's on an emotional level. Type 2, it's not emotional. It's cold and calculating.
most people miss about both types. They're not going to stop on their own. They're not going to wake up and suddenly develop integrity. They're not going to get bored and move on unless you make yourself a harder target than it's worth, because what they're doing is working. If it wasn't working, they wouldn't keep doing it. So your job is to change the cost-benefit analysis for them. You need to make it more costly or more difficult to come after you than it's worth. Here's how you do that. First, you document everything, and I mean everything. Every meeting where they took credit for your work, every email where they misrepresented what you said, every conversation where they committed to something and then later claimed they did it. You're building a paper trail, but you're doing it quietly. You're not running to HR every time something happens. You're collecting evidence so that when the moment comes, you have receipts. Because without documentation, it's your word against theirs. And if they've been playing this game longer than you, they're better at it. Second, you start controlling the narrative before they can. After every important meeting, you send a summary email. Just to confirm, here are the action items we discussed and who's responsible for what. You CC the relevant people. You're not being aggressive, you're being thorough. But what you're really doing is creating a record that's harder for them to rewrite later. When you complete a project, you send an update with your name clearly attached to your contributions. Again, you're not bragging, you're just being clear about who did what. This makes it much harder for them to claim your work as theirs. Third, you build alliances, but you do it carefully. You're not going around bad-mouthing this person. That makes you look petty and unprofessional. Instead, you build genuine relationships with other people in your department and in other departments. You make yourself visible to people beyond just your immediate boss. You contribute in meetings, you help colleagues when you can, you become known as someone reliable and competent. Because if this competitive coworker tries to trash your reputation later, there are already people who have their own experience with you that contradicts whatever story they're trying to tell. Fourth, and this is critical, you stay absolutely professional with them at all times. Never lose your cool, never send an emotional email, never snap at them in a meeting, because they're waiting for you to do that. They're trying to provoke you into looking irrational, emotional, difficult to work with. The moment you give them that,
I bet you didn't know this. In North Gaza,
yeah, everything he's saying is pretty good advice. But the bottom line is, if you're in a workplace that has this kind of toxic behavior, you're going to have to put in the work. You're going to have to put in extra work that if the toxicity didn't exist, or if you were working somewhere else, you wouldn't have to be putting. So
you stay calm, you stay courteous,
I would add
you stay
my 2
focused on
cents.
the work. It drives them crazy when they can't get a reaction.
Saying, ask yourself if it's worth it. Like documenting everything, you know. Some of the stuff that he's saying is good for professional development anyway. So if you're the kind of person that just keeps your head down and you don't form relationships with people at work, coalitions, or as he put it, or whatever, maybe that's a soft skill you should start learning. But the other stuff, sure, creating a paper trail of the work that you've done, documentation, there's value in that too. Like it's good to do that anyway, because you might want to evidence the work that you've done in your next job or when you apply for promotion and that kind of thing. It's kind of safeguarding, but it's also safeguarding you from these kind of toxic predators in the workplace. So yeah, no, I guess it's good career advice, regardless of whether you're doing it to safeguard yourself against a toxic coworker or just doing it as a proactive thing. It is extra work, though. It would be nice in an ideal workplace that you don't have to do these things because you get, it's a meritocracy and you get to progress on the merit of your abilities and the things you've achieved. But let's be honest, that's not always going to be the case. So, yeah.
Text you, because if this ever escalates to HR, you want to be the one who stayed professional the entire time. Now, if none of that stops them, if they keep escalating, if their behavior crosses into harassment or sabotage that's affecting your ability to do your job, then you go to HR. But you go prepared. You don't walk in emotional and venting. You walk in with your documentation. You describe specific incidents with dates. You explain what you've already tried to resolve it. You stay calm and factual. You ask for their guidance on next steps. You're not demanding they be fired. You're asking for help navigating a difficult situation. This positioning matters because it makes you look reasonable and solution-oriented instead of vindictive. But here's something that nobody talks about that I need you to hear. While you're doing all of this tactical stuff, there's a deeper question you need to ask yourself. Why is this person getting to you as much as they are? And I don't mean that in a blame the victim way. I mean, there's a reason their specific words or actions hit you harder than they might hit someone else. There's a reason you lose sleep over this. There's a reason you feel that knot in your stomach every morning. Usually, it's because somewhere inside you, there's a part of you that's scared they might be right. Maybe there's an old belief that you're not good enough. Maybe there's a voice that tells you you're an imposter.
Limiting beliefs. Shout out Tony Robbins.
And someone's going to figure it out eventually. Maybe you've always felt like you had to prove yourself, and now here's someone actively trying to disprove you. When a competitive coworker's attacks land hard, it's usually because they're poking at a wound that was already there. They didn't create your insecurity, they're just exploiting it.
That's
This
right.
matters because if you can identify what that wound is, if you can look at it honestly and start healing it, their attacks lose power. Not because the attacks stop, but because they stop landing the same way. When you're genuinely secure in your value and your abilities, when you know what you bring to the table, when your sense of worth isn't dependent on everyone liking you or recognizing you, then a competitive coworker becomes more of an annoyance than a threat.
Absolutely. The best part of this video was those last few seconds. I wish, the one regret I have in my career is I wish I knew that, what he just said, earlier in my career, because I had wild insecurities, deep wounds that would be exploited all the time. And the best thing you can do, like all these tactics to do in the workplace are fine, but the most important work to be done is outside of the workplace on yourself, so that you don't have the insecurities. There's no imposter syndrome. There's no senses of inadequacy, no wounds that a toxic coworker or a competitive whatever or a predator, nobody can smell any blood in the water because there is no blood to smell, right? Their attacks will not land the same way. They won't affect you, so you won't have to safeguard your wounds because they're not there, you know? That's good advice. Instead of being affected by their actions, you just radiate that cool, calm energy, cool, calm, confident energy. You know what you bring to the table, you know your value, and you'll give it to people who see that value. So coming up to the hour, or past the hour, that's perfect. I think a nice natural stopping point. And we did get through all of them, which is pretty cool in an hour. I'm happy with that. Very happy. Certainly changed my mood. Thanks. And take her easy. Have a good one.